Hello.
Greg's gone.
Hey, what's up?
Greg already?
I'm doing a Zoom video call with some people about it for some audio audio guys.
All right, I think we are live.
What do I show everybody at once?
I'm going to be on this for at least an hour or so.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Sorry.
Everything all right?
Yeah, I think so.
Are you guys doing a build your own thing tomorrow, or is it? Okay, cool. I'll swing by then. Cool. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right. We are Facebook.
All right, you got me back?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to One Mystic Stand Voice and Production. Today we have they are considered probably legends of the audio industry in cruise ships. We have Ian Coleman from England, Andrew Anderson from Canada/Philippines, and Mr. Greg Shepard from the United States/Mexico. As you can see, this will be a fun conversation about sound people and singers. And the three of these people are actually also performers. So which one is the first impression you guys have when you walk on stage and you have to deal with a singer that you have never met before? How do you introduce yourself as sound engineers? Let's go with Ian, who's next to me, and then we're gonna go with Andrew, and then with Greg.
I wander over with a big smile on your face, shake the hand, say hi, and just figure out what's going on. Always get a set list. Get a set list as soon as you can, so you know what you're dealing with, what sort of music you're going to be doing, and try and get in there before they start getting in with the band, because otherwise you'll be standing there for 15, 20 minutes while they yammer on. So try and get in there first. In fact, it's not a bad idea to get in touch with them ahead of time. If you know that if they're on board the day before, get in touch with them the day before, and get the gear off them, or get your senior production manager. Are we talking about ships here? Is this a ship thing, or is this just?
No.
Or is this like a?
I think it's every.
It could be coming on the stage or coming to the studio recording.
Okay. Well, again, you've got first thing to do is say hello with a smile on your face, and find out what it is that you're actually going to be doing with them. I mean, I've not done that much studio work with singers, so my work is with live, but turning up with a live PA system where you're on the rental company and you're booked to do a venue, and you don't know until the band turns up what the hell they're doing. You might have a stage plan, or a tech rider. In which case you know where the mics are going, you know what the stage layout is, but you don't know what the sound is until they actually arrive. So get as much information as you can as soon as you can. And be polite.
That's good. What about
you? Be a dick. That's their job. Next.
Andrew Anderson.
Well, I'm a little bit different, I guess, than from Ian, because I'm not doing sound mostly for different individuals every night. I'm working with the same guys over and over on tour. So most of the time it's just making sure what I look for my paperwork anyway that's going is I'm sending over my input list, my stage requirements, my tech rider, how much time do I have? Do I have loaders? Do I have, all that other stuff for the band to actually get on the stage, okay? So once we get on stage, I'm going to check everything and make sure that my singers have what they need, that we have our power where we need it, make any changes that we're going to need, that the microphones are what we requested, or, I've got all my own mics up, and then work from there. I usually work with a system tech. So I'm in close contact with him for most of the show to find out what he's done. And then if I need anything changed, or the singer needs something changed in their monitors or in different EQ, they'll go back into their little box of toys and make the changes to the rig so that they're happy that I'm not going to blow it up, and that I can get the sound that I want up the front end for the band and the singers on stage. It's great.
Greg Shepard.
As Ian was saying, it's all about communication. Even as he said before, the singer actually hits the stage. The best thing to do is introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Greg. I'm the front of house audio engineer, or A1. What are your requirements? Also, if you're running tracks or anything else, if you got track and click, make sure you get those well in advance of the actual rehearsal. That way, they're not waiting for you to put them into your system to run them. Also, you can check them to make sure that they're all good to go, and check your all the it's all pre-checks and everything, with making sure you're ready for them to walk on stage and start looking at performing. But it's communication is the key, is making sure you've got that done. They're basically what they're ask them before they even get into the venue or onto the stage, what's a basic thing of what they like in their monitor mix? Because some singers are just, they want kick, snare, hat pumping in them to give them the drive for the show. Other ones just want themselves and reverb. So there's a lot of different ways of looking at that. So kind of have that conversation before you get onto the stage, as Ian said, especially with the musicians there as well, because they're gonna start faffing about and start talking music. Then you're going to be talking over each other's performance, over each other's rehearsal time as well. So make sure your tracks are set to go, and get a basic idea of what they're going to want in their mix, so you can kind of have a bit more of a preset for it, versus going from absolute nothing, instead of having 10 minutes of yep, nope, a little bit more of that, a little less of that. Kind of it'll cut your time down. It'll cut your time of rehearsal down.
That's good. So you guys believe that having certain type of music preparation as well, it is important to communicate with the people on stage, because always flat for a singer or a musician doesn't necessarily means the same for a sound technician.
Oh, absolutely not.
What do you guys say about it?
I don't think there'd be a singer in the world that wants a flat mix in their monitor.
No.
They're gonna want.
No smiley face on the graphic. That's what they want.
They're gonna want it nice and clear. You know.
Never ever ask them what they want. Ask them what they need. Because if you ask them what they want, they're going to say a bit of everything.
And you have to make sure that also that you have the gear that will give you what they want. You can't go in with an underpowered monitor rig or improper monitors for what they're going to want. You have to base it on the act that you're going to be mixing as well.
Well, this is the thing, from a rental point of view, as the guy that's providing the gear, from a rental standpoint, it's really important that you talk to, if you like, say for instance, Andy's coming on with his band, he needs to tell me well in advance what he actually wants. So if they're really on top of it, there'll be a rider. You'll get a rider ahead of time, and it will tell you, I want this in the racks, I want this desk, I want these monitors with these amplifiers, I want these microphones, unless you bring in your own mic pack. There'll be a huge list. And so as the rental sound guy, you talk to the visiting sound guy and you go, well, look, I haven't got all this, but I've got this, this, and this. So very often you can compromise. And Andy, you'll know about this as well. When you do smaller gigs and you play in a club that's got a house system, you've got to be able to be flexible, to be able to deal with pretty much anything. You know, I've turned up and there's been an old Studio Master 500B that's only held together with the beer stains. You know, so you sometimes you can't throw your toys out the pram when you turn up to a venue either.
No, but it's also nice to know, and I know Greg's gone through this with some of the bands he's worked with Whitesnake as well. It's always with that technical rider. To me, that's like the most important piece of your kit. When you send it out 2-3 weeks, a month ahead of, as soon as the gig's booked, you send it out to whoever's going to be supplying the gear, whoever is producing the event. You send it out with your needs. If you don't hear anything back, 9 out of 10 times, that means they didn't even read your tech rider. So as long as you hear something back from whoever's going to be supplying the gear and going, hey, I don't have, an SSL L500. I can give you, this console instead. give you this, and then you go, okay, well, hey, he's reading the rider. He knows that I need what I need, so he's giving me something comparable. But if they're not reading the rider, you could be in for a whole set of headaches. Instead of them like the small bar gigs, they go, hey, this is what we have. Fine, I can understand that. But if I show up at a gig, 25,000 people, and they give me
that's a whole different ball game, because generally speaking, if you're on a tour like that, you're taking your own gear.
In different areas, you do. I mean,
unless you're on a festival kind of deal, or you're the support. But if you're
the one to ask on this is if the bands are touring with a lot of their own gear. Some guys are traveling with 2 rigs now, but in a lot of cases, like in Asia where I'm on tour, it's impossible to tour with your own rack because it's on a plane every day. Do you know what I mean? Like here, you put it in a truck and you go from here to there. For me, I'm every gig.
In Europe, a band comes over and we'll put a rig together for the first day to the tour, and that rig travels, for the whole tour. So that's that side of it. But I mean, you're talking A-list stuff when you're at this level, White Snake, and I've been out with my bands as well. But that's really nice. But it ain't always like that, is it?
Most of the time.
Well, it might be for you, big Ponce.
Caesar, we've kind of run away with this a bit, buddy. Let's reel it back in for you.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So let's go back with this. What happens when you hear from a singer asking you, like, "It does not sound like me," or "sounds robotic," or the most probably I have had these questions, "Sounds like I don't know." How do you react to that? And how you actually try to fix this problem for your singer? For the singer who's trusting you is trusting his or her voice to the whole audience, right? So, and this, like, it's not feeling comfortable by singing on stage if it's not having the right sound coming through her or his ears. What is the first thing comes to your when they think this is not right? What do you argue with them? You
go out and listen.
You
go out and listen to their wedge. Also, if they've got if they're using in-ears, you have to have a comparable set of in-ears on where you can tune a Q pack to their system and have a listen. The most common thing that I have found with that, coming from cruise ships as well, is latency. Digital latency in the system is what they're here. It's coming back to them later than they're actually singing it. So they're hearing a bit of a phase cancellation in the latency. So that's something that's tough to get over system wise. But hopefully by the time that they've got there, you've got either your wedges or your in-ears fairly well tuned to something that's in a realm of proximity of what they're going to want. If not, then we need to do some work before they get there. But if the first thing you do is don't argue, because that is never going to help the situation. You just go out. The biggest thing is go out and run up there, have a listen to it, and don't just say, yeah, it's fine for me out front, but go up there and stand right beside them and listen to what they're hearing and see if you can help them from that area.
Find a lot of that as well. What Greg's saying goes back to what the guys were talking about earlier about the communication. We speak one language. Singers definitely speak another language. So sometimes, at least with the technology now today, we can go up with an iPad or an iPhone and stand beside the singer and go, okay, well, I think this is what he means. And we can make adjustments to the EQ or a reverb or something like that. And if we have a positive response back from the artist, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm looking for that, more of that or less of this. No, that's not what at least we can communicate and try and figure out what he's saying. Because he's not going to tell us, oh, yeah, I need more 3.5 and 5K in my headset. I'm not cutting through. I got a muddy 200. They're not going to talk to us like we would talk to them. And we have to learn to speak their language as well. I don't know. Somehow, sometimes they come up and go, it sounds purple. And I'm supposed to figure out what that means.
The Laurie Miller, it sounds too orange. Yes.
Yeah, Karen Saunders, it's too wah.
So we have to figure out what they mean.
We've all got horror stories, but
it's nice with the technology we have. We can literally stand beside them now and make the changes and see if we're on the right page.
And how do you?
I was quite lucky because I've stood on a stage and performed, so I
Right.
know what I think good monitors should sound like. So first thing I do when I get into the venue is go down, have a listen, and stand on stage, and I'll set a basic EQ as to where I think it would be for me,
Right.
and even build a basic monitor mix. You know, I'll put a bit of kick and snare and hat in there already, particularly if there's a drum shield going up. But just to give them a bit of something. But generally, I can set a basic monitor mix before they even show up. Certainly with vocal EQ.
I would say that one of the harder things to deal with that is someone who's with like a Christian rock band or something who's going around to different churches, because it's a roll of a dice of what you're going to get. Are you going to get a PV with a blown 12 and a piezo there for a monitor, or are you you're dealing with different speakers and different EQs on an absolutely daily basis on things. I've dealt with that out front of house. I know Andy has quite a bit as well, because but once you've got your general mix of a band going through, then you can tweak the output EQs and stuff for those monitors and not destroy what you kind of had built for a band already, and kind of tweak the actual output EQ for the PA or monitors to kind of help that out. But coming into different places, you're using different monitors, and even on the very high end thing, if you're going from Martin monitors to the next day you're running a Meyer MJ 212s, and then the next one you're using Woodworks or whatever. If you're using multiple ones a day, you are going to end up, but you'll end up basically, once you're touring with that sort of thing, you'll end up doing a basic EQ for each type of monitors. Again, we'll go back to the A-level touring with Whitesnake. We were doing festival stuff and everything as well, but setting up the console for the front of house engineer, I built an EQ library. Said, oh, I'm in a shed with JBL Vertec rig. This is the EQ that we used. Oh, we did that in Chicago. So build a basic set of EQs for each one of the different things. That's the beauty with digital consoles now, which 90% of people are using, that you can build those libraries up of going, oh, this is this type of PA and I'm in this type of room. That gives you at least a starting point to kind of do points off of from there.
That's very interesting. And guys, how do you approach with those singers who actually they've been recording their own projects at home and they use certain type of plugins, and they come on stage and they say, I want to sound like I sound in my album.
Go on, Andy, you can fix this one.
I can't.
Andy's especially on this one because he does both. He does the studio and the live on them, so he knows what plugins to use.
How do you get your live sound?
I use Real Gear. I don't know. Some of these guys that come in and they do their own mixing at home, and then you know what they're talking about. They've got the chain is like 12 plugins or whatever on one channel, and it's like
mixed on the next 32.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's ridiculous. It just doesn't work. You can't throw that much compression and an expander and a multi-band and all on a live rig and run live sound at the same time. It just no, not a big fan of the plugins that way. I'd rather use the Real Gear. And
again, it goes back to what I was talking about before with digital latency. The longer that line that you put that much crap on on VSTs, the more you add that to it, the longer the latency is for all that processing to do, and that could be detrimental to what he's going to be hearing back for himself anyway.
Usually, the biggest complaint is always I'm not hearing what I'm singing at the same time.
Right, and that goes back to the digital latency. You take all that junk out, you add a little reverb to it, and all of a sudden, oh, now it's closer to me now. It feels like I moved from way out to right back into my head.
But going back to the original thing about how you get that studio sound when you do it live, I mean, I'm going back probably 20 years now, but the biggest key was if you know you're going out with a band and you've got to do it, you've got to listen to that album painfully.
Religiously.
Yeah.
And you've got to go through it. And I had, at the time, I had a rack with, I think it was 8 SPXs in it. And I had snare reverbs and tom-tom reverbs and guitar reverbs and effects and vocal effects. And it was song by song. So as you went through, at the end of each song, I had them all midied up with a little foot switch on the desk. And literally, I had the set list programmed in, hit the foot switch, and all the SPXs went to the effects that I wanted for the next song. So you've got to, if you're going to try and reproduce that studio sound, you've first of all got to listen to it and painstakingly analyze and figure out what's going on.
And it goes back to communication. Talk to ask what studio it was recorded in. Ask them what they used, and see if you can come up with a live compromise of what they actually use. If they're using a specific delay, then you can find that delay, or if they're using a specific multi-band, don't do a C2, use a C6 or whatever. Try to get that thing specifically what they needed.
A lot of that studio stuff, though, when we try and bring it live, it fails because we can't, you can't take a 4-piece band up that has 12 tracks of guitar on the album and 18 backup singers and 20 tracks of vocals. I mean, it's not, you're going to sound live no matter what.
Yeah.
There's tricks we know that to fatten up vocals, to run your double tracks, to run your reverbs, and and the best thing is get your delays in time with the tempo of the song. Pick the right reverb. Picking your effects will make it sound more.
And that's all about listening to it beforehand and just going right. I need a whatever. You can try and set your delays up ahead of time, but if they're off at gigging speed, tap delay is your friend. The tap delay button is your best freaking friend.
It's like I didn't realize when I started doing audio live and with the studio, like Greg when he was out with Whitesnake, there's so much math involved in live audio that if you don't know the calculations, which you can find online easy, there's calculations for how much power you need to get so many dB at 100 meters or what it's going to be at 40 meters, what your delay times are going to be if you want it to fall on the quarter note or the eighth note. There's math. You have to learn the math to bring audio, to get your audio skills better. You have to know the math.
Exactly. So we could agree on something that at the end of the night, more than the technology we use, it is about the art. It is about what the singer or the musician is actually reproducing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here our job is to facilitate their performance. That's we translate what they want to do to a larger audience. That's our job.
Yeah, because sometimes I have seen some audio guys arguing how much they know about one plugin. Suddenly, it's not about the song anymore. It's about how much they know about something, but don't know about song. So what do you think about, because I'm very sure you guys have seen this type of attitudes, and maybe that kind of getting a cloudy position to a singer, or a musician, okay, so all the audio technicians are like that, right? Have you actually have to kind of twist the opinion of any of your performers you have worked with, and oh, I thought the audio guys were like this until I met you and I realized that it is about actually music as a language.
You have to remember that, like Greg said, we are here to support whoever's on stage. So it's not my show. I'm not going to throw in these callback delays and panning and different stuff that's going to go on if it's not in the song. If it was in the song and it was a #1 hit somewhere, well, there's a reason. So I'm going to make it sound like that. That's we update the skills, and sometimes we'll update the sound a little bit. If some of the stuff was recorded 20 years ago, you're going to have to update it a little bit to make it a more consistent show, especially if the band is going to be playing songs from 20 years ago to their newest release, which, last week or whatever. It's going to be a different kind of a mix. So instead of resetting the whole console on the fly to go from an 80s mix to a 2020 mix, it's you're going to have to adjust the entire set list to be in one space. But it's not my show. I'm just trying to help out what's going on stage, not oh, hey, check out what I can do, you know.
And you're looking for consistency there as well, Andy. I mean, you want a consistent sound throughout the show. You're not going to go from that sort of scooped out 80s.
Yeah, it would be exactly like you're saying. Is if you put on like a White Snake from the Slide It In album,
Yeah.
to, you know, the last album, it's a completely different mix, and it's different volumes, and you know,
Yeah.
sounds.
Well, also, if you're looking, it's like, again, as you say, consistency with that sort of thing. Like, as much as we love to move around different like tom reverbs and snare reverbs and that sort of thing, you want that kick drum pretty consistent throughout an entire show, because that's your rock, that's your foundation of the show. You build it off of that. But if you change it, like if you make a thuddy late 70s, you know, no front head and a mic on the beater sort of sound from that, and then you've got a real impact sound from the 90s or something, you're not going to be able to make those changes, because it's going to drastically react differently with your PA. So you want to make that kick drum sound pretty consistent throughout the entire show.
That's good. So one more question to you guys. Why singers usually hate compression? Or they say I don't like compression. I feel like it's a wall to my voice. Why?
I would say that's usually bad compression.
Yeah, over.
When you've got 24 dB of makeup gain on a 4-to-1 compression ratio on a vocal, number one, it's wrong, and B, it's just gonna sit right here, and it's no matter how much they put in, they're not gonna get more out of it. But you do need to tailor it to make sure you're not gonna be clipping things or that sort of thing. If you're just using it just to soften something up, that's one thing. Or bring up, you can use it as an expander, you can use it to expand the dynamics, but you do need to push it into a direction where you've got from here to here, not here to here. So you do need some of that in there, especially with in-ears, because the drivers sometimes can't take really, really wide dynamic range transients.
What do you think, Andrew?
Over compression basically takes the dynamics away from your performance, and that's what the singer, because they're usually fairly arty type people. They're very sensitive. So how they hear it in their head when they sing it without any speakers around, without any amplifiers or anything, is what they want to sound like in their headsets or in the monitors, in their in-ears, in the front end. They want to be able to basically whisper so it comes across, and they want to be able to scream so it comes across. We can't have that, because you'd be riding that fader all night you would have to know the song and the band and that singer so well. You'd be riding that fader. So we use the compression to close that window up just a little bit, so that we don't have to run the fader as much. We keep him in that window so that he's being heard, because what's worse is a singer that's not going to be heard more than the dynamic. You know what I mean? He's got to be heard the entire show. What
about that, Ian?
Yeah, what they said.
If we're speaking about over compression, Caesar, can you tell us about your mix?
I will about that later. My profile from you. But those things are important, because most of you audio guys nowadays relate way too much. Again, I have learned this, or this is my my degree on sound engineering, but I don't know how a kick drum sounds like, or I just do not take the job to go on stage and hear what the guitar player is doing.
Yeah.
Talk to my singers, right?
Yeah, but what you just said is I think this is something that we talked about years ago, was people that don't know what a kick drum sounds like. Okay, well, I know what a kick drum sounds like for this kind of music. Right. And I know what a kick drum sounds like for this kind of music, but I don't know what a kick drum sounds like for this kind of music. Or you know, you have to study the music that you're going to be mixing, and every one of them have a different gain structure as well. Different music is different gain. Like, you know, you can have the dance music, which is heavy bottom, and then jazz, no bottom, you know, all top, rock, which is in the middle, full mix, less vocals, musical theater, all vocals, hardly any band, you know, so you have to learn your mix for what you're going to be mixing as well. And
one of the things that was very apparent to me when I first came to Ships, and I started working with Ship sound engineers, particularly because after I moved up to being the production manager, and I'm getting these audio guys coming in, and we're doing a lot of, at the time, we were doing a lot of this big band, you know, swing, Sinatra, Dean Martin, all that kind of stuff, Rat Pack stuff. And the guy's there with a Metallica kick drum. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This stuff is driven by the bass. It's not driven by the kick drum. It's not driven by the snare drum. It's all driven by that swing. Doom, 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 doom. It's driven by that bass. And I don't want to hear a shitload of top end on it, because that's not what it's supposed to sound like. And I would take these guys and would sit in the cabin with a bottle of Jack, and would have a listening session. And go, listen to Sinatra live at the Sounds. Listen to it with the Novo Quartet. If you don't want to listen to the big band stuff, listen to it broken down with just the drums, the bass, the keys, and a sax player. Just playing these songs, but listen to how it's constructed. And yeah, you can't use your Pantera kick drums for swing.
I remember a sound guy.
Well, you can if it's with Greg and we're on the lash and just having a bit of a giggle, and it's like, but you can't get a floor tom that sounds like a G trunk on that one. But that's just being silly. But for the main part, you have to do your homework. You have to know the different genres. With country, it's like, if you're mixing country, if you think the vocals are too loud, turn them up.
Yeah, not more. Yeah.
You know, and it's the same. Well, cruise ship mix.
Oh yeah.
The cruise ship mix is sit the vocals on top of everything. You might not like it. You might not like it, but your audience wants to hear these singers, and they'll bitch and moan if they don't.
You can definitely tell the rock and pub guys from theater guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's weird for the three of us. We've done so much of both, and we know how to kind of click into different gears of how we're also mixing to our audience as well. That's a great way to put that as well. Again, if you're mixing in church, you better have that vocal out in front of everything else.
Yeah.
Or if you're, but yeah, if you're mixing at a pub and you know that singer's not quite so on top of the note, you bury him back, put a little reverb on it, and put a guitar in front of him. You know.
I try and equate things to food. When I'm trying to explain things to people that aren't us, I break it down into food terminology. And when you're doing a mix, when you're cooking at home, or you're cooking for your pub band or whatever, and your mates, you mix it how you want it to sound, how you think, you know, I want that pumping thing, and da 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 da. And you
extra chili.
And you cook a meal, you cook it how you want it to taste for your own personal taste. But when you're cooking professionally, an executive chef who might be a bit, you know, he likes it spicy, but he can't make it spicy for the 500 guests that he's got coming into his restaurant. So he has to make it for the people that are coming in to eat at his restaurant. And it might not be exactly what he likes, but that's what he does, because that's what everybody else likes. And it's the same with mixing when you're doing it for, you know, a living, for an audience that not necessarily has come to see the show even. You know, if you're on cruise ships, those people have not come to see the show.
Yeah.
When people come to see Rivermire, when people come to see Whitesnake, they are coming to see that band, and they want to hear it, and they want it pumping, and they want to feel it. But when you're in, say, the church, or you're on a cruise ship, you can't mix like that. You have to mix to what they want, not what you think they want, what's going to be pleasant. And it's a big difference between what you might personally want and what your audience wants.
So, because at the end of the night, the one who's hiring you is the lead band or the
the house.
yeah.
Or, yeah, either the promoter or the house management, or like you say, if you're out with, like Andy's out with Rivermire, he works for the band.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're with a rental company, you're working for the promoter.
Right.
Yeah. So
But again, as what Ian was saying, was there the difference is when I was out with Matchbox 20 or Whitesnake or Judas Priest, or he's out with River Maya, or even back when the Loverboy days and that sort of thing, the people that are coming to see that show, they know those albums inside and out, note for note, guitar note for guitar note. They love that band. That's why they're spending $75 a night to go see these guys, maybe more. So they want that to sound pretty dead on. So that's where, as all the everybody's saying up here, it's communication and learning. Know the music that you're going to be performing, because you are part of the band. You are part of the equation of what the audience hears. So if the audience is screaming at the end, they loved everything, you did your part of the band's performance. Mm-hmm. You are part of. That's one of the best ways I've always looked at it. I'm part of the band to make this a show.
Exactly. You're trusting your ears and trusting your right.
Yep.
Exactly. So the three of you have gone from analog to digital.
Yeah.
How was this? Because I remember you, Greg, mixing a couple production shows, and I learned this from you, like not being afraid of moving the audio board, the analog audio board for a production show Broadway style, which is set. I seen you moving faders and doing kind of live automations in the mix, and it was something pretty neat. From there, from having that live specs to the automation, when the console is semi-lag and you can't do anything else than probably call your supervisor if something goes wrong. How have you guys approached to that? Like, it has been easy for you to change that. How do you approach now to the digital audio?
I use an audio most of the time. For me, it was just learning the surface and where to get to things more than anything else. Mixing is still mixing. I'm still moving faders. I'm still moving knobs. As long as someone hasn't completely locked me out of doing anything on the desk, hint, hint, hint. But as long as I've got access to everything, I will still make it sound like I think it should sound like. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's there. There's like very recently on a ship, the way that the show was set up, I thought was deafeningly loud, and I'm a rock guy, so I thought there's no way that I should have a cruise ship show that's reading 106 and eight rows from the stage. So I automatically, for me, I brought it down. I was kind of admonished about that, but there's a point where you need to read your audience as well. But going back to the digital to analog to digital thing it's just learning it. It took me a little while to get into a digital console, going from a Midas to with a few effects processors on the side that's hardwired in. But if you start looking at, I looked at it as, oh my God, I've got a gate now. I've got on all the toms. I've got compressors on the snare and the kick. I've got tools that I can use to my advantage that's built in instead of having to scramble and find something around. That was my biggest thing, that I like going to a digital console. But I still ran a digital console very much like an analog desk, and so does most of the major front of house engineers that I know on the road. I'm even talking about Bob Scoville, who's one of the best brains in the entire business. Mm-hmm. He still runs it like an analog desk. The only thing he does is when he switches from a chorus to a verse, he may be switching effects in there in between the song, but he's not like radically changing routing or that sort of thing. So running front of house audio for most of the thing is, how to keep the whole thing as simple as possible and still get what you need to do with the desk. So Andy's nodding his head. We all still run so much more like an analog desk. It just has a lot more features on it.
I pretty much set up all my digital desks to be analog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like you said, when I'm mixing a song, and I think this is what a lot of new engineers don't realize. It's not set it and forget it. I don't know who teaches this mentality in some of the companies we work for, where everything's got to be at 0 and don't touch anything. Okay, every song is a different song, which means it's a different palette, which means the mix should change. You have to dance. I don't take my fingers off the faders. I am mixing
hands
all
on
the time, up, down. You know, the snare, you know, halfway through the song, the drummer might be getting tired and the snare's a little lower in the mix than I want it to be. So, you know, you got to bring it up. The vocals, he's up and down. He's too loud in this part. I know he's going to scream in this part. So I've got to, you know what I mean? It's every song is a different painting, which requires a different brush. So you need to work the faders. These guys that just sit there and don't touch anything, I can't even tell you what I want to do to them. They should not be mixing, because they're not mixing. You know,
I remember going out one of my first tours back in the analog days, and we were the support band, and it was like, you get that fader. So digital,
I'm that guy now.
digital has opened it up, so we could have our own thing. But back in the day, in the analog days, it was like, if you were the support band, the only EQ that you could fuck with was your lead singer, and everything else stayed for the headline band. So you got one channel to play with. I think I just
Well, the nicest thing about the digital format and the digital console has been, we've been able to go from these large 9-foot, you know, footprint in a booth down to now you can basically do it on a Behringer X32, which takes up the floor space. We have more gear than we ever had on an analog tour.
So this is
guys to get the lid off an XL4.
a very big question. So you have 24 channels like coming out from any playback system.
Put that away. Put that away.
You have 24 or 12, or
Put it away.
or you have your band. Would you mix your tracks depending on how the band is playing, or you will leave your tracks as like a number zero?
If you've got 24 tracks of coming back to you, you mix them in, you blend them together. But if you've got a click and a left, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, with tracks, if you're mixing a multi-track back into a show, I just think of it as I got 24 microphones.
It's just more instruments.
Yeah.
So you just don't leave it there.
No.
Oh, hell no.
No.
Oh.
You know,
I think we've actually all agreed on something.
Definitely. Some front ends are more efficient. So you're going to run like a cowbell through a D&B rig over a JBL rig. There's definitely going to be a little bit difference in the high end, you know?
Yeah.
So you're going to make adjustments to your tracks.
So do you consider not only how the people is playing, you people on stage, but do you also consider the acoustic of the environment? If you're
absolutely, 100%. 100%.
Usually that's something, you know, that would be something that the system tech would take care of before you get to the gig, or the audio guy would be there before sound check to figure out his room and run virtual sound check. And, you know, or if he works the room like on a ship where he's working in the same room every night, you should figure out your acoustics, you know, and get your mix and wait.
For myself as a house engineer here in Vegas, with my rig, I've had touring engineers come in where the rig stays the same, but we just drop in different desks and everything's set for the act. So I pretty much just tell them, you know, we've got everything smarted out. I'm running it's a weird rig, but I'm running a DV DOS on over a Galileo system. Imagine that. Yeah. But either way, it's set up and ready to go and pre-done. But there's things you work out with the front of house engineer, like, hey, I think there's, for the way it's set now I don't like the top end in the center cluster. That's my job, is to attenuate that of what he needs after he listens to the room and smarts it way before the artist even comes into the building. Him and I sit down, we work out how we want everything to go. But again, I've got a good rig in the same room, so it's not a difficult thing. It's just there's a personal preference into a couple of things that they want, and that's my job to attenuate that.
So
but then if you get into an arena, I mean, you guys we've all done arenas,
Yeah,
and there are big fucking horrible acoustic chamber nightmare arenas.
Mhm.
So and we, when we were out with Osher, we had beautiful Clare Brothers rig,
yeah,
but it was a case of like you can't change the acoustics of the room.
Right.
yeah.
You have to work with the.
do what you got. So, but I mean, the guys are like, he's got his angles worked out, because when you're flying those rigs, you've got to make sure that because your angles have got to be set every day. So these guys are out there with the lasers looking and working all that shit out. But very often there's not a lot you can do when you're in a shed. And even worse than a shed is an ice rink.
Yeah.
or an outdoor shed where they put a big plate on the back of it to stop noise going across a road.
Yeah.
AKA the
Or outdoors when the wind's blowing 30 miles an hour and it takes all your sound 500 yards down the road. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You do the best with what you've got, but at the end of the day, you're always going to be at the mercy of just some horrible
room acoustics.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the bigger the shed, the worse.
The worse it
gets.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the 7-second reverb on a kick drum,
Oh, you stand on stage, hit the snare drum, it goes all the way back and comes back to you.
Yeah.
There you go. Your in-ear monitors is all set.
I think you'd struggle to do those sheds without in-ear monitors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you really would. Standing on stage is awful
Yeah.
in these 20,000 seat arenas.
That's why our monitor rigs are so big on those stages. With side fills, huge monitors.
Yeah,
I mean,
because you've got to overcome the slapback from the front of house coming back to the stage.
Yeah.
Through the 80s and 90s, when you do the arenas now, I've never been on a stage that has the ability to be so loud because the speakers are so efficient now that
Yeah.
you can just blow your head off. You just turn them up until you can't hear the slapback anymore.
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been very interesting. We have one of the few things I have learned from you guys on this conversation is communication. Singers come first. This is a service industry,
Yeah, absolutely.
and we devote to our clients, right? Like,
Yeah.
our clients are like our number one.
If the client's happy, you're going to work.
Yeah. Just to say that, and this is specifically for the guys that are working on, if anybody's working on these ships,
Yeah.
and you've got these guys that are telling you that you can't do this and you can't do that. I have broken the rules so many times to make the singer happy, because if the singer's happy, he will deliver 100%. If
Right.
he's not happy, he won't do his job to the best of his ability because it'll be playing on his mind. So I go and I'll put an extra fucking thing in the rack, or I'll run an extra set of monitors, or I'll do whatever it takes to get that singer happy so that he will deliver his best performance. And that's the key to that. I mean, for me, that's the key. That's king. If
A lot of
singers-
the time with us three and all the guys that we've mixed, I know that singers, when they come in, they go, "Oh, you're here. Thank God."
Yeah.
absolutely.
So we have our reputation ahead of us, so we don't. But the new guys, you got to build the reputation. You got to get it right. You got to do whatever it takes to get it right.
How do you,
I try and coach my guys. I really do.
I just yell at them.
Well, I throw blunt, heavy objects, but it's usually at the Mexicans. So,
Oh no!
oh no, No. But yeah, I mean that's the key. If you can make your singer happy and that he's comfortable on stage, he will deliver 100% and he'll walk away happy.
So
That's where we're at.
And the next time he sees you, he's going to be happy to see you as well.
Right.
Yeah.
there is also a limit between making them happy and also like spoil them on whatever
Okay.
whatever they what
Well, there are those singers. After
Oh, and there's a
10 minutes-
list that looks like a roll of toilet paper, but
Yeah,
it's,
after 10 minutes, shut it off. I mean, just forget it. You know, after 10 minutes, it's not going to happen.
have
You're
Well,
not
I
gonna
had a battle. I had a battle with one particular act who could not. Everything my sound guy did was shit. So I got involved, and everything I did was crap. So I said, "Well, you know what, fella? There's the desk. Knock yourself out. Call me when you're done, and I'll come and open the house."
Mhm.
And he freaked. And I says, "Well, if he can't do it and I can't do it, who else is going to do it? You get stuck in." And it turned out that after he'd gone to the boss and I'd had a call and gone, "What did you say to this act?" Da, 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 da. He came back up and all I did was took 2 dB of 2K and all of a sudden he was happy. Some people are dicks.
So, in other words, he could hear himself in his monitor and he didn't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
yeah
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It really was. And you're always going to get you're going to
You are going to run into those people. Absolutely.
how do you deal with them, like patience and also
patience until I just had enough.
Yeah.
And I literally left the room.
When it starts to affect the rest of your gig,
Yeah.
wise, you've got to move on. I mean,
Yeah.
if they don't know what they want and they can't communicate with you and he's not speaking the same language that you're speaking, it's just not going to work. You know, you're going to have to give him your best and tell him that that's the best that it's going to be.
Yeah.
all goes attitude as well, right? From this
Absolutely. A lot of it seems if it looks like you're giving them the absolute best that you're going to be able to give them,
Yeah.
that goes a long way. To look like you're working, but just sit back in the desk and go, "Nah, I'm not coming down there. Nah, that's what it is. What it is. That's all you're going to get. That's fine." Well, that attitude right there sets you up to fail immediately. But if you're going down there listening to the wedge, going, "Okay, how about this? I can take a little bit of that." If you're running back and forth, make it look like you're working.
Yeah.
Then they're proving that you're. We've had, there's an act that's no longer on ships, and she's very, very accomplished jazz artist in New York. I know.
Yeah.
Ian's worked with her as well,
Yeah.
and she was notorious for being hard on sound guys. But what she was hard on them for was the fact that they wouldn't go down and listen and wouldn't go down and work with her on what she was wanting. She was in the back lounge on a ship, and she said this to me about the sound guy there. He said, "It wasn't what I wanted. I didn't get exactly what I wanted to have, but I saw that he was doing his absolute best, and that's all that I could ask for somebody." So at the end of the day, give it your best. As you said, this is a service industry, so put your best effort into it.
It really pisses me off when I see sound guys that never leave the desk.
Yeah.
That never walk the room. It really annoys me.
Or if you would see one where the snare drum microphone is way out, and they're just like, "I'm just going to turn it up a little bit," instead of aiming the mic right back at the correct source.
Yeah.
Well, guys, so we have actually, whoever has been watching this, kind of monitor this, you guys are a lot to handle. I kind of remember HR in a company with 3 of you together.
Imagine us all on the same place. Oh my God.
It's 3 of those Muppets in a balcony at the same time.
To get to know your artist, make sure that it's service first to whoever's hiring you.
Yeah.
The room you're mixing on, right? Work along with the singer. Don't be a sound diva either, saying like what it is. I'm not coming down. Have a good show. Bye. And just give your best. I think at the end of the night, this has been lost a little bit. You know, I've been blessed enough to work on rental companies, touring bands, cruise ship, big churches, small churches, and everything comes down when they say, "Hey, they love you." Like they don't love me; they love what I do for them. And
Right.
I'm not the best audio guy ever, but I try to show what I can deliver, and I care about them. You know, sometimes we get tired too. We just
Yeah.
I remember once on the soundboard, and Ian Coleman approached me like, "What are you doing?" Here, like, "Mix now." So he's
What was it? I know that you know that I know that you know you can do better than this.
saying, "Why is it sounding like crap?"
Yeah.
Best. Or Greg Shepard telling me, "Whatever you do, make sure it's always sounding good. It's always sounding present. It's always sounding the right, and the right moment with the right volume and the right stuff." And you don't need
Very easy. On cruise ships, it's very easy to get complacent after
Yeah.
3 or 5 months. And your ears, and you know what? And your ears go off. You know, you're in the same room every night listening to it, and sometimes you yeah, it's hard. You've really got to concentrate.
never give it for granted, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
always remember what we do, what we love. We like to mix. So, and like Ian says, on a cruise ship, mixing the same act for 5 months on every Tuesday night, the same act every Thursday night, the same production shows on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yeah, you're going to almost fall asleep. But at the same time, you're representing the cruise line. There's
Yeah.
going to be 900 people in that theater that are going, "Hey, you know what? It sounds really good," or "Wow, it's too loud. It doesn't sound very good," or "That singer's really good." So at all times, you want to portray a positive image in that way, that you love your job. We love what we do. We mixing. Some nights are better than others. Some gigs are better than others. But what we're getting paid to do, I mean, there's no other better job than sitting in front of that desk and
Common
knowing.
sense. I wish I'd never been promoted to a freaking senior production manager. 'Cause
I know
miss
that
it.
feeling.
I miss standing behind that desk. I really do.
Okay.
Best gig in the world.
One of the other reasons I've never done that. You two did. but-
Yeah, well,
I didn't ask.
I only got promoted because somebody died, literally.
So the question, "Who die and make you the boss?" is the right for you.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much. Highly appreciate it. You guys are genius. You guys are legends. You've been working with so many great people, and you're the people who are actually behind the scenes. And even though you are not just barking about what you do, you're just doing it with passion. And like most of us, and this season, like it is hard for all the entertainment company, for all technicians,
Yeah.
engineers, like
Oh, yeah.
it is. This is conversation for another 3 hours. But from here, from this platform, thank you. God bless you all, and we hope like this pandemic goes away, and we come together again to make
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
together for all those like actually no having a single job. We are blessed somehow. We're still doing what we're doing. We're getting paid for what we love to do. But guys, thank you. God bless you all. I talk to you soon.
You bet.
Bye.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Yeah.